Let me introduce our next speaker, Reverend Father V.J. Joshi. He is a Catholic religious priest belonging to the Carmelites of Mary Immaculate CMI. He is a social worker and has been active in social upliftment of the tribals and aboriginals in the hilly region of Manigra Hills in the state of Maharashtra, India for last 12 years. He holds master degree in English literature from Osmania University, Hyderabad and another in social work from Nagpur University. He pursued his doctorate in clinical psychology in the University of Santo Tomas, Manila. He published many research articles which appeared in the journals like Indian Journal of Positive Psychology, Psychological Studies, and Journal of Contemporary Psychotherapy. His research interests include the fields of marriage and family, couples communication and effective parenting. He is the founder director of Samvad, a center for dialogue, counseling and psychotherapy. Now I request Reverend Father Joshi to deliver his talk. Please, Father.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much for welcoming me. And good afternoon to all of the participants. We have a wonderful session so far and a very relevant topic that we are having today. Let me straight away enter into my topic of holistic approach to depression management. How we can approach depression, the phenomenon called depression, from a holistic perspective. So before entering into the topic proper, let me just give an overview, a recap of all that we have been seeing so far with regard to depression. So the first question is, what is depression all about? As Bishop Ji very beautifully narrated, it's a clinical condition that involves the mind and the body of a person. It's not only just the mind, it also involves the body. It is more than just a feeling of blue or down in the dumps or sad about a particular issue or a situation. And then it interferes with a person's function in daily living. Yeah, that is the most important aspect of this. It interferes a person's daily living. It makes the person dysfunctional. It also interferes with the relationship of the person and his or her work life. It's a condition that requires diagnosis and treatment by a child health care professional or a provider. Now let's see what is not depression. Oftentimes there are so many myths that are there in the minds of the people. People think that as someone is getting advanced in age, normally depression sets in. So it's a part of age, the process of aging. No, it is not a normal part of aging. That is the first thing that we should understand. Depression is not a normal part of aging. It's not something that is to be ashamed of. This is a greater challenge that we health professionals, especially psychotherapy and psychologists, are facing here. People easily approach any medical practitioner when they have some physical illness. But then when they have some psychological, mental disorder or illness, discomfort that they feel, they are ashamed of sharing that, divulging that and approaching someone for help. Therefore, the first thing that we should understand about depression is it is not something that we should be ashamed of. Again, it is not a character flaw. Sometimes the parents think that their children have got a different character, a bad character, they are not behaving properly. No, depression is not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It's not something that you can just snap out of. No, we need to give proper attention and care to the people who are in depression. Now, next question is, who suffers from depression? Yesterday I was talking to one of my friends and then I was telling him that I am going to present a paper or a talk on depression. The first question that came from him is that, oh, that's not a major part as such, right? Not everyone is affected by this. But dear friends, be sure, depression can affect everyone. At some time or other in our life, we have to go through this phase of being depressed. Depression is a common condition that affects about a good percentage of adult population every year. Now we have some facts and then some projections basing on those facts, depending on some of the studies that researchers have conducted. See, depression affects, as Bishop G and then Sister Seema beautifully have narrated, depression affects the motivation level of the person. It also interferes with the feelings and emotions of the person. It blurs our thinking. It also intimidates and interferes with the way how we behave and relate with others. It also has an effect on our body, our physical health and well-being. It affects our social interactions, and it also affects our mind, how our mental status is. It also has a great impact on the mental states of the person. And then we have some of the studies beautifully coming with these results. And then this is a study or a declaration done by World Health Organization in 2008, which says depression is the principal cause of the global disease burden with a 16.6 percentage lifetime prevalence. So how alarming is the situation? See, out of the entire disease burden of the total globe, entire globe, depression is a principal cause, a principal contributor. Again, coming back in 2012, World Health Organization on the World Mental Health Day, which is October 10, it says depression is the second most general cause of dysfunction in the world by 2020. That's a kind of projection that World Health Organization is making, basing on the evidence-based studies. By 2020, depression would be the second most general cause of dysfunction. And that is, again, still overwhelming is the case. It is going to be the prime contributor to disease burden by the year 2030. So that is the kind of projection that the World Health Organization is making with regard to depression. Depression is going to be the prime contributor to the global disease burden by the year 2020. Again, we have another declaration from the part of World Health Organization. Depression more commonly affects women. And deep depression, and that is the impact of this. Deep depression in women could also affect the upbringing of their children. It can affect the family life. It can affect the relationship between the husband and wife. It can affect the important other significant people of the family. So this is quite alarming. And then, of course, it also includes these risks. The risk of suicide attempts. The people who are in depression, especially these are the studies that are coming up during this period of lockdown. People are more and more going into the deep abyss of depression and consequently trying suicide. Then substance abuse, another risk factor. Academic problems, antisocial behaviors, and interpersonal problems. So these are the risk factors, or even the visible consequences of someone being in depression. Coming again to the point of suicidal behavior, basing on or being led to by depression, we see depression leads to suicidal thoughts. 1 out of 6 girls is led to committing suicide or making an attempt to commit suicide. Whereas when it comes to the boys, it is 1 out of 10. And then again, studies say 60% of the depressed youth have sometime or other entertained thoughts of suicide. 30% of depressed youth make a suicide attempt positively. And then, as we have seen in the last webinar with regard to tackling suicidal tendencies and instances, these are the risk factors. How someone is attempting suicide and how someone is getting successful in that. These are the risk factors, like family background. A very unhealthy, deplorable family background can put someone into depression as well as consequent suicides. impulsivity of the nature. Some people are very impulsive by nature. Those people are easily prone to make an attempt in committing suicide, and access to lethal means and negative life events. So all these are risk factors that make this depression again very serious and severe. Now coming to, after having seen this overview or the recap of what depression is all about and what are the risk factors, now I am entering into the proper topic of managing or treating depression. Before entering into that, let me ask a question to the esteemed participants. Please, you can just chat your answers. What are we treating? What are we treating? Oftentimes, people end up treating or caring or noticing just the peripheral symptoms. Yeah, I can see some of the chats where people say, no, symptom is not enough. Treating symptom is not enough. Yes, I would just give you a case study. I mean, a scenario that occurred in my clinic a few months back. There came a young man, nearly about 28 years of age, with this complaint, problem of depression. He says he feels so depressed. He doesn't have any motivation at all. He thinks there is no meaning in life. Upon taking his intake interview and then making a deep study about the person, asking many questions about his childhood, about his whereabouts, about his family background, about his education attainments and his aspirations and dreams about life, I came to know that this man had been already to different places. He hails from Vardha. He had already visited the both medical colleges that we have in Vardha city, Datta Meghe Medical College in Savangi and then Kasturba Medical College in Savadaram. He had been to both the medical colleges, consulted the psychiatrist there, consumed quite a lot of medicines that were prescribed by the doctors there. He also had been to Nagpur to a good number of psychologists for counseling, but still the situation the same. And then he came to me. So I was just tracking his record, his background, and all those treatment histories. And then I came to know that oftentimes what was done to this man or how this man was treated was on a peripheral way. He was complaining about lack of sleep, inability to sleep, fall asleep at night, and then he was given some medicines. For some days he was feeling relieved and then he was able to sleep properly, but then later on he came back to the original situation where he was finding it very difficult to fall asleep. So oftentimes we all make this mistake of just attending to the symptoms. But what we need is to treat the cause. Not treating the symptoms, but treating the cause. That becomes a very important and vital aspect of managing depression. Why do people get depressed? Why do people go into depression? What are the causes behind that? Now, there is no one single cause. Depression happens because of a combination of various things. It can be running in the family, in the genes. We know the genes from the ancestors, the fathers, are passed down to the next generation. So it can run in the family, it can run genetically. And then we have this brain which is controlled by neurotransmitters, so the brain chemicals. If there is any imbalance in the brain chemistry, that can cause depression, very low mood, low self-esteem, lethargy, all those things, because our brain and subsequently our mind is all often controlled by the chemicals that is there in our brain. So if there is any kind of imbalance in the brain chemistry, naturally that is going to tell upon the physical as well as mental well-being of the person. Depression can also be caused by environment and psychological factors, of which we have seen very elaborately in the previous two talks and also by the talk by Bishop. And then depression can also be caused by medical conditions and medications. Again, unfortunately, this is one of the myth about depression. When we hear the term depression, naturally people tend to think that it is all about the mind. Something unwanted is going on in the mind. The mind is unwired in a different way. Negativity and negative thoughts are causing depression. Of course, a part of it is there, but then there are other factors as well. And therefore, if we want to really treat someone, help someone to come out of depression, or if we ourselves want to come out of depression, we need to take care of all these things, like our genetical makeup, our brain chemistry, the environment in which we live, and of course the allied psychological factors, and also the medical conditions that we are in. Let us see what are the medical conditions. See, if we have a low thyroid function, it is all likely that we may get depressed. If we are suffering from vitamin D deficiency, I have some friends working in Germany, and they say, oh man, it is very, very difficult to keep their positivity alive, because they cannot see the sun for sometimes like weeks together. It's all very drowsy, very, very cold and chill. So much so that that mood in the nature also get translated into the mind and body of the person. So if vitamin D is deficient in the body, if they don't get exposed enough to the sunlight, to the nature, to the bright world outside, then there is all possibility of someone contracting depressive symptoms. Again, folic acid and B12 deficiency are another aspects that we need to have in our body. Omega-3 fat deficiency. Food allergies. Some people have allergy to some particular type of food, and then if they unknowingly consume those kind of food, naturally they will have discomfort in their body, in their mind, and then they may also fall into the abyss of depression. Hormonal imbalances. My friend, one of my friends, who also is a clinical psychologist, and then we had our education together in Manila, Philippines, Dr. John Jacob, about whom I will speak later on towards the end of my presentation. He did his study, his research among the adolescent group, how adolescents experience and fall into depressive mood, depressive disorder. And then one of the factors that he came out with is the hormonal changes and imbalances that the people, especially when a child crosses from childhood to puberty and adolescent ages, there will be a drastic change of hormones in the body. And then that would affect the mood, the thought, the feelings and emotions of the person. And of course, as I spoke a while ago, side effects of medicine. So we need to rule out all these possibilities when we are dealing with a person of depression. Now, as I said, the brain chemistry, chemicals, two important neurotransmitters involved in depression are serotonin, something called serotonin and something called norepinephrine. These two, if there is an imbalance in these two, there are these effects. If the serotonin is not proper, the content, the measure of serotonin is not proper in our body, we may have difficulty in our sex life, in our appetite and digestion, and then it may also cause aggression and aggressive behaviors. If this one, norepinephrine, is not in proper balance, it can affect our concentration our level. It can also affect our interests and our dreams. It can also affect the level of our motivation. If both these are in an imbalanced situation in our brain, then these common problems like a depressed mood, anxiety, unintelligible or vague aches and pains. We cannot explain what is the exact cause of this pain, but then we experience pain in our body, headache or stomach ache, or even aches on our limbs and hands. And easily irritable. We get so easily irritable. So these are the two main brain chemicals or chemistry that affects someone and then causes depression in someone. And then we have also some other comorbidity, means allied diseases or dysfunctions which can cause depression, or depression can act as a symptom of some other diseases. Can a person have depression and another illness at the same time? Yeah, that is the question here. Depression may become a symptom of some other diseases. That is what we are going to see here. And therefore, when we are trying to manage or help someone come out of depression, or when we ourselves want to come out of depression, we need to take care of all these factors. See, anxiety disorders, including post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, then obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, panic disorder, social phobia, a generalized anxiety disorder, GAD. All these can cause depression, or depression can become a symptom of these deeper disorders that a person is experiencing. Depression can also be caused by alcohol and other substance abuse or dependence. And then, as we saw earlier, depression can be a symptom or can be caused by some medical conditions like heart disease, a stroke, cancer, HIV/AIDS, diabetes, Parkinson's, and now to add to that, COVID-19. That is our specific focal point now. COVID-19, the corona pandemic, which is causing depression and suicidal tendencies among the people. Now, we will come to how we are going to treat depression. A holistic approach, as I always emphasize. As we saw, it's not simply psychological alone. Oftentimes, we tend to think that way. When it comes to depression, we think that it has to do with our thinking alone. No. We also have to, as we have seen already, we also have to consider the physical realities. So, before going into technical aspects of managing depression, let us see some of the few simple methods that anyone, any lay person can do, either to get rid of his own or her own depressive, discomforts and other things, or to help someone else. These are the 9 laws or principal laws that everyone has to observe, adhere to without fail, to have a real healthy food habit. Eat whole real food. As we all know, what we eat becomes ours. What we eat enters through our mouth, goes into our stomach, into our digestive system, and then when it gets digested, it's absorbed into our system. Body is a mechanism and this is a fuel, and therefore we need to take care of our food habits, eating whole real food. Along with that is drinking a lot of water. Hydrate oneself by drinking enough water. Exercise regularly. Our muscles are flexed. Our veins are rigid. When we get tense, when we are stressed, when we have an overload of responsibilities, naturally our body becomes rigid. Our mind stops working, functioning, and then we need relaxation. We need to stretch out. We need to have exercise regularly. We also need to have good sleep and rest. Get enough sleep. Get right nutrients. In some part of the world, perhaps the food habits and the things that are available there, the natural food may not be good enough or sufficient enough, and therefore we need to have supplements. We need to get good, right nutrients. And then, of course, we have seen this in the previous webinar. We need to manage our stress level. And then breathing and relaxation goes along with our exercise regularly. Yeah, we need to simply breathe, take deep, nice breath, imagining that we are consuming energy from the universe, and then breathe out all the anxieties and panicking thoughts, negative, dysfunctional, indebilitating thoughts. We need to breathe out and we have to relax. The next one is get connected to the five elements of nature. Yeah, earth, light, sky, nature, vegetations. Because the nature, the universe is full of energy. This energy is cycling and recycling, and then we need to get connected to that. Imagine if a person is bottled up in a small little room without sufficient lighting, without sufficient air coming into the room. Naturally, he or she is certain to get into a depressive mood. And therefore, we need to get connected. That's why again the exercise, breathing, relaxation, all these go together because we get energized. This nature has a power to re-energize, revitalize ourselves. Therefore, we need, before jumping into any kind of medications or consultation with the psychologist and all, we need to practice these simple methods. Then we need to help others also to practice these simple methods. And then finally, of course, the most important thing which Bishop Towers is the end of his talk emphasized, faith life, prayer and spirituality has an important and a vital role in keeping the mind and body of a person intact in the mode of well-being. Because when someone has that deep faith that nothing will happen to me because there is someone who can guard, who is guarding over me, that person will never fall into depression. That person will never fall into despair and negative thoughts. That hopefulness, that hope would always keep him or her moving forward. So we need to have this aspect of faith, prayer, and spirituality. Another thing which I have already mentioned in our last webinar is accompaniment. People with depression feel acute loneliness, as Sister Seema very beautifully mentioned about the symptom of, one of the symptoms of depression is that people feel so lonely. They feel left alone. They feel left alone. They think that no one understands me, no one is there with me, no one cares about me. All these negative thoughts may come in the mind of the person. They are feeling awful. Oh, this is an awful situation. I have no escape from this. This is how people would tend to think. They feel hopeless. There is no future. Nothing is going to happen. And then, therefore, they feel sad. And what happens is that these thoughts suck the life out of a person. The energy, the vitality, the life out of a person is sucked away by these negative thoughts, and then cause his or her shoulders sag and make him or her vulnerable. Now what, as teachers, as knowledgeable persons, as religious leaders, as social workers and the people who care for others, what we need to do is that we need to tell them, brother or sister, son or daughter, you are not alone. Recently on September 10th, we, Samvad, conducted a webinar. September 10th, as you may be knowing, is the day, World Day of Prevention of Suicide. World Suicide Prevention Day. WHO has declared this in 2003, and ever since, every year on September 10th is observed as World Suicide Prevention Day. On that day, we had a seminar. Somebody had conducted a seminar, and the theme of that seminar was, you are not alone. Oftentimes, people feel that they are all alone, they are left all alone. So we need to reaffirm, we need to reassure, we need to convince them that yes, you are not alone. We are with you. We are with you. We will help you. We are for you. So this kind of a confidence should be generated in the mind of the people. You can share whatever you want. All the pains and sorrows you can share. I am here to listen to you. So that kind of a loving accompaniment is the first step towards managing depression of a person. And we need to accompany them. It's not simply a hollow words that we are giving them, but then we need to, genuinely, we need to accompany them. We need to connect with them, connect with their emotions. Sometimes we, the psychotherapists, psychologists, make this mistake of dismissing their thoughts, dismissing their pains. When someone comes to your clinic with this complaint of having headache, having insomnia, I mean inability to sleep, having problem with their relationship with their husband or wife, sometimes the psychologist, psychotherapist would simply dismiss oh, it's nothing, don't worry, it's nothing. No, we need to connect with their feelings. If you deny their feelings, they will never return to you. They will never come back to you. So we need to connect with them, connect with their feelings and emotions. And then slowly, once you win their confidence, slowly work towards refuting their negative thoughts. We need to listen to them patiently and sincerely, seriously. Why? Because people heal when they feel heard. Half of the problem is over when someone is there to listen to them patiently. Unfortunately, in the modern world, busy world, hasty world, no one is interested in listening to others. We are more interested, we are happy with our smartphones, with our own virtual world. We seldom get out of our virtual world and enter into the real world. So the people heal when they feel heard. So that is one important thing that we need to bear in our mind. Now, other treatment options, more technical, more professional. As I told you a while ago, depression can be caused by imbalance in our brain chemistry. Some of our physical conditions can cause depression, and therefore we need to have medications. We need to have medication. Someone who is under severe depression, before starting any counseling psychotherapy, we need to stabilize that person. For that, we need to have the help of some medicines, some antidepressants that can stabilize the person, make him temporarily normal, and then from there we can work upon. So we have this technical terms which you need not be, I mean, the common man need not be very much worried about. These selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So there are some medicines which would cause either augmentation or inhibiting or augmenting the level of serotonin as well as the level of dopamine. So these are the technical medicines that are used in treating people with depression. But again, I would emphasize here, medication, someone should not simply jump into medications. If the situation is so severe and serious, then only to stabilize the person, we need to go for medications. Psychotherapy, which is my field, or which is the field of many of us, because even teachers are counselors, parents are counselors, priests, bishops, and nuns are counselors. We all counsel people with an understanding heart. When we try to influence and impact someone else, we become counselors. And that's why psychotherapy is also known as talking therapy or talk therapy. We don't inject anything into the body of the person. We don't do any kind of, operations and other things. We talk, we listen, and we talk. This is talking therapy. And then two best treatments for mild to moderate depression, which are proven over the years by many psychologists and psychotherapists, are these two types, which is known as cognitive behavioral therapy, which is CBT. And then the second one is interpersonal therapy. Let us see one by one. What are they? Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is founded by Aaron Beck in 1995. And it tries to challenge and refute the negative interpretations that activate the development of depression. So what happens oftentimes is that something happens in our life, but the way the person analyzes or interprets those incidents become a bit negative, and then it has an impact on his feelings, thoughts, and relationships, behaviors. So cognitive behavioral therapy is trying to negate or challenge and refute those negative, erroneous thoughts, and then implant positive, logical thoughts in the mind of the client. Second one is interpersonal therapy, founded by Gerald Klerman and Myrna Wiesman in way back in 1996. This deals with primarily the interpersonal issues such as grief, role disputes, role transitions, and interpersonal deficits. Oftentimes, by sitting all by himself or herself, someone will not automatically go into depression, though there are cases of that sort as well. Oftentimes, what pushes someone into depression is kind of things that happen between persons. When I deal with my life partner, when I deal with my workmate, when I deal with the society, there can be something going wrong, affecting me adversely, and then I get into the mode of depression. And therefore, this particular therapy deals with this interpersonal relationships and the things that emerge from that. Now, I am proposing a new, not I am proposing, I am quoting someone who has proposed a new way of dealing with the depression. That this is my very batchmate and friend, Dr. John Jacob. We were together in Manila and then we were doing our research together, and then he made this particular research which is called the positive neuroplasticity. As I said, our chemicals in the brain has a very important role to play in how we keep ourselves mentally and physically. And then this brain neurotransmitters or chemicals can also be affected. That is called neuroplasticity. They are affectable, they can be impacted upon. So through some good method, we can have an impact, we can manipulate, we can change the level of these neurotransmitters. And therefore, he comes with this heal, which he has termed as heal, based on taking in the good theory of Rick Hanson. Rick Hanson is an American psychologist who has come up with this taking in the good. Deliberately internalize the positive experiences that we go through, in spite of the adverse situations that we are facing ourselves in. There could be some positive factors emerging from those experiences, and then deliberately internalize, make it as our own, those positive aspects, experiences. Now, my friend has coupled this aspect along with the bibliotherapy. Bibliotherapy is another psychotherapeutic method where the effort is made to make the client read good literature, motivating, inspired literature, and then implant those positivity into the brain system and thinking thought pattern of the person, so much so that being inspired by these examples and inspirations of the great men about whom someone is making a reading, that can help the outlook of the person. So my friend John Jacob has coupled these bibliotherapy aspects as well as taking in the good theory of Rick Hanson's, and then came with this heal. And then he aims at creating positive insights, focuses on taking in positive experiences and installing them in the brain. As we download an app and install them into our system, we have to download or rather gather all positive things from around and then install them into our neural system, our brain, our thought system, so much so that we can handle our situation in a better manner. So this is a picture representation of what HEAL is all about. It's an acronym of these four aspects. Have a positive experience, pick up positive things from your around surroundings, enrich it and get them absorbed into your system, and then challenge your negative material or negative thoughts with these positive experiences. So that is how it moves. I'm coming to the end of my presentation. So HEAL activates. So what is happening in this process of HEAL is HEAL activates mental states and then installs them as neural traits. So it is meddling with our neurotransmitter system in the brain. It affects the neurotransmitters, the brain chemicals, and then turning everyday good experiences into good neural structure, permanent neural structures, cultivating inner strength. There's a beautiful quotation from Rick Hanson. He says, "You cannot do anything about the past, but you do have the power to take in the good during the next few moments that come in your life. So forget about the past, leave those negative things, but in spite of your pain, in spite of your discomfort, you may still come across some of the positive aspects of life. You are still alive, which itself is a good thing. In spite of 6 or 7 months into this pandemic, we all are still safe and healthy. Another good thing. Forget about our business plans and programs, but we are still healthy and safe. A good experience, a good thing to look, a good way of looking at the things around. So take them in, implant them into our system, and then we get more and more positive vibes. Heal brings individual into the present moment and reduces rumination, thinking over and again about the negative things. It's called a rumination. So heal avoids this rumination and then brings the person into the present realities. It turns the moments into fulfillment and meaning. Yeah, everything. That we can find a meaning in everything when we go through this process of heal. As one gets good experience into his or her brain, his or her well-being becomes increasingly unconditional. Our happiness doesn't rely on the happenings around us, but rather we ourselves can generate joyfulness in ourselves. So that is the beautiful aspect of healing. As the person's positive mental state becomes positive neural traits, happiness emerges naturally inside him or her. Wonderful. Now we are coming to the end of our talk. As if you remember, we had these three medications: psychotherapy, and then electroconvulsive therapy, which is known as shock therapy, which was upheld in the past. For severe cases in which other therapies like medications and even psychotherapies do not seem to work, sometimes therapists and doctors make use of this method of giving shock treatment. Of course, it had a bad reputation in the past, but then today this electroconvulsive therapy has generally greatly improved and has shown to help those who cannot feel better with other treatment methods. So with that, I end my topic, my talk, my presentation. And then I also would like to invite your attention to one program that Samvad is going to conduct from next month, that is 10th of October, the World Mental Health Day. We are going to start a 6 months counseling program, diploma program in counseling, which is going to be online. And then please, if anyone has interest in doing that, can contact me. My mobile number is given there, WhatsApp number is given there, and you can also approach me through email. So thank you very much for your patient listening. Let us all work towards getting rid of depression from our own lives and from the lives of our dear and near ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father, for your motivational lecture on a holistic approach towards depression management. We are indeed grateful for your esteemed presence, for giving us your valuable time, and we always look forward to your guidance in our future endeavors. Thank you, Father. After the valuable session by our resource person, we are sure that all the participants have benefited a lot. This benefit has encouraged them to know more, and they have posted some important questions on YouTube and Teams. So now I hand over the proceedings to Dr. Pramod Sakhakar sir for question answer session. Please, sir.
Okay, very good afternoon to everybody. I hope the participants must have enjoyed, got motivated with this lecture on depression. Since we are running short of time, we have distilled out some of the few essential questions which represents the all attentive, enthusiastic, active participants. One of the question which is very fundamental in nature, he asked basically that when someone knows his or her condition which he can't or she can't deal with, how to deal with it, and what is the solution to completely eradicate that problem. I'm sharing this question with Father V.G. Joshi, since he has talked about all of the clinical aspect and all that. So,
Okay, sir, thank you for that question. Can you repeat that question once again?
yeah,
I'm sorry, can
when
you? Yeah,
someone
please.
knows his or her condition already, which she can't or he can't deal with, how to deal with it, and what will be the solution to wipe out the depression?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. It's a beautiful question, a wonderful question dealing with my specific field of expertise.
Yes.
Good. As you said, when someone knows well that he is in a depressive mood, and then he or she also realizes that he is not able to come out of that all by himself or herself. Naturally, as the bishop also was mentioning, we need to, I mean, that the person needs to take or seek professional help. And then, as I told you, when someone comes to my clinic or to seeking my help, what I need to do or what we all need to do is first ruling out all those aspects which I have mentioned, like what is actually the cause for this depression. Of course, as Father Paul Shetty mentioned, we need to have that kind of a empathetic approach. We need to get connected with those persons. All those aspects are presupposed. But after having done all those things, having generated a kind of a confidence and confidentiality in the mind of the client, the technical aspects I am talking about, we need to first rule out which is not, or is there any other allied comorbid conditions for this person? Is he or she suffering from some serious medical conditions? Or is he or she is a drug addict or given to alcoholism? Are there any other allied situations owing to which someone is in depression? And then seeing that we need to have a holistic approach. We don't depend on one simple approach. Even in the psychotherapy, when we know that this is purely psychological that this person is suffering from, we apply psychotherapy. But then even in psychotherapy, of course, I mentioned 2-3 methods, but we don't simply depend on one single method. We call that eclectic method. We take good aspects of different methods, like even hypnotherapy is one of the aspects that we can easily employ. EMDR, another therapy that we always employ in dealing with depression. So we take things in a holistic way. Sir?
Thank you, Father Joshi.